I have had quite a few people come in over the years that have said, Mom is a train wreck and lives in a trailer, or some variety of these facts. Holds down a job part-time and, is dating somebody new every third Wednesday. That maybe isn't the best way to parent a child. I'm sure a lot of people have different positions on that, but it isn't actually enough typically to go in and to take away parentage or to get guardianship. Welcome to Gavels Down, Voices Up, where we flip the script on conventional legal discussions. I'm Rachel King, here to guide you through the murky waters of family law, estate conflicts, inheritance disputes, all of the dramas. We're not just talking about law, we're talking about how it affects your life, your rights, your future, and your money. From the courtroom to your living room, we bring you insights that matter. Dive into each episode ready to challenge, learn, and grow. Ready to change the dialogue? Let's begin. Gavels down, voices up. Guardianship, conservatorship, what in the world is the difference? It's so confusing. I'm an attorney and it's confusing. We're going to talk all about the difference between guardianships and conservatorships today. And if you're needing more information at the end of this about what a conservatorship is, go back and listen to the podcast that's all about deep diving into conservatorships. So I'm licensed in California, Kentucky, Arizona, and Texas. And conservatorships and guardianships are referred to differently in those jurisdictions. So even as an attorney, I have to go back sometimes and be like, what are we talking about? And in fact, in Arizona, they have differences between conservatorships and guardianships depending on what powers you're asking for. So if you're confused, you are not alone. One thing to know is that both conservatorships and guardianships, whatever they are being called, give one person the power to make decisions over another person. So we're going to talk about two different families for the sake of figuring out what conservatorship is and what guardianship is. And then just for fun, I'll confuse you crazy at the end of this. So family number one is a case where dad had early onset dementia and was living on his own. Wife, married, wife was taking care of dad, but then wife had a stroke and unfortunately passed away. So now we have two children and dad, who again has early onset dementia that is advancing at different rates of speed. All right, now we've got family number two, one of my favorite families ever. And in this case, we have a fantastic little girl who was about 6 years old, if I recall correctly, and was a daddy's girl. She loved her dad. Mom and dad never got married, but they did live in what I would consider a marital type relationship. My grandma would have said they were shacking up. Dad went out for a ride one Saturday and unfortunately was in a horrific car accident and passed away. So dad didn't do a will, but did have like unearned paychecks, and because he was young, and he also had been contributing to a 401k and had a term life insurance policy. So what happens here? Both of these situations are tragic, but they also have a solution under the law. Simply put, a conservatorship, how I consider a conservatorship is for adults. Like it's like an adult guardianship. And you're like, well, you can't use guardianship when you haven't even told us what it is. But bear with me for a second. When you turn 18, you become an adult, and everybody is cheerleading for themselves when they turn 18 because they're like, finally, I can give my parents the middle finger and do whatever I want. You get to make all your own decisions when you're 18 years old, and you're presumed to be able to do them even when they're really bad decisions. When somebody is 18 and has the ability to make their own decisions, if we want to take away their ability to make their own decisions, we're looking at a conservatorship. This is very common when we're talking about Alzheimer's or dementia, a stroke, or some other medical condition that impacts their ability to either communicate or make decisions or move themselves around. It could be a car accident, whatever the case may be. If we're talking about an adult that has the right to make their own decisions, and now we're going in and we're asking to take away that adult's power, that's a conservatorship for the purposes of today. A guardianship is where we're talking about a minor. So now we have somebody who's under 18 who doesn't get to make their own decisions anyway, but we want somebody else to be able to come in and make their decisions. Parents are entitled to you can make your own kids' decisions. I don't have to get special permission from the court to get my son braces or my daughter surgery. I just can do that because I am mom. Now, if they become 18 and they still need help with that because of some kind of developmental disability or cognitive impairment, then I would need a conservatorship. But while they're minors, I get to make those decisions. If anybody else needs to make those decisions, like if I die, or in this case, we're going to talk about why mom needed to get a conservator or a guardianship, because you're probably like, but she's mom. Then we need to ask the court for permission to do so. And the court gives these special powers to somebody who wouldn't normally have them to make decisions over a child. In both guardianships and conservatorships, we've got two different kinds. We've got of the person and of the estate. So let's take a step back. We've got conservatorships where we're trying to make decisions for somebody over 18. We've got guardianships for making decisions on somebody under 18 where we normally wouldn't have the power to make those decisions. And then under both, we have person, which is healthcare, living arrangements, things like that, medical decisions. And then we've got the estate, which is financial powers. You might be thinking, well, like when would a minor ever need a guardianship of the estate? I'm about to tell you. And maybe you're already looking ahead. It's very common in conservatorships, adults, right? We've got dad who has dementia, to need both a conservatorship of the person and the estate. Why? Because dad has dementia. He's unable to make his own decisions. He might need to be placed in a memory care facility. So we need the power to come in and figure out where he's going to live, make his medical decisions for him, get him the medical help that he needs, and potentially place him in a memory care facility. That is of the person. At the same time, dad has a house, and how are we going to be funding this memory care facility? Well, we got to sell the house, but dad can't sign a contract because he has early onset dementia, Alzheimer's, and he can't sign contracts anymore. So in order to be able to sell the house, control the finances, and take care of his money and his assets, we need a conservatorship of the estate. They're two separate things. You can have different people do both of them, and they have different requirements. How do you figure out what you want or what you need? Well, in the case of my family, number one, dad didn't quite need conservatorship of the estate. Why? Because he had been proactive and had a power of attorney that named his oldest daughter as the one that could take care of financials if mom passed away. So that's exactly what happened here. But he didn't do anything else. And the power of attorney that he had did not allow for medical decisions or anything like that. So we went in, and because he needed to be placed in a memory care and they were requiring somebody have the authority to place him there, we went in and got conservatorship of the person. That allowed the children to help place dad where he needed to go, to get him the medical care and the doctors that he needed, to talk to the doctors about all of the things. And that was great. And that worked for a really long time. So we were successful in getting conservatorship of the person for dad. Then we fast forward a few years. I can't remember quite how many years. Dad's dementia has progressed significantly, or his Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is like a subsidiary of dementia. I think if you have Alzheimer's, you definitely have dementia, but if you have dementia, you don't necessarily have Alzheimer's. So anyway, that's for another day, or maybe a medical lecture. In any event, it was a few years later, dad's liquid assets were dwindling, and the children found themselves in a situation where they needed to come up with more money, and they had to sell the house. The house had been renting for quite a while. So that was great. The money was between the rental income and the money that was in investments and stocks and bank accounts, they were able to subsidize and cover dad's care. But because his needs were getting so high and he really was at a point where he was on hospice and needing 24-hour care, they simply couldn't afford it anymore. They had to sell the house. The rent just wasn't going to cut it. So they hired a realtor. They thought, oh, this is going to be a piece of cake. We've got this fabulous power of attorney that's worked excellently for years. Boom. They had a problem with title. Title said, I don't like this power of attorney. We don't like how it's worded. They just wouldn't clear title and issue a title insurance policy on the sale. And that brought this sale to a screeching halt. The power of attorney wasn't going to work. So what did we do? We needed to go into court and ask the court to give child, eldest daughter in this case, the power to take over and manage dad's assets. We explained to the court that we had a power of attorney, but it simply wasn't working and that we had to be able to do this so that we could liquidate the house to pay for dad's care. And the court ended up agreeing and saying yes, and granted a conservatorship of the estate. Years later, years after they granted the conservatorship of the person, they granted the conservatorship of the estate. And through that, we were able to sell the house, liquidate the assets, use them for dad's best interest, and really make it so that he had the best quality end of life hospice experience that one could hope for a parent or a loved one. In that case, that is conservatorship of the person and the estate. And again, it works for a variety of issues. It could be everything from a developmental disability on a child who went from being a minor to an adult, and all of a sudden you're, as the parent, sitting here like, oh, I can't make medical decisions anymore. It could be for somebody who suffers from a medical issue that leaves them unable to make their own decisions, unable to care for themselves, a car accident. It could also be something that's more common in seniors, like a stroke, dementia, Alzheimer's, or some other cognitive impairment that makes it so that they can't make their own decisions anymore. We need somebody else to step in. Conservatorship. Conservatorship of the person and of the estate. Think over 18. Let's take a quick break. If you're navigating the twists and turns of divorce, you might be wondering, getting divorced, now what? That's actually the title of my upcoming book, designed to guide you through the challenging and emotional process of divorce. It's packed with real-life stories, expert tips, and motivational insights to empower you every step of the way. While it's not available just yet, you can join the waitlist to make sure you don't miss out. Head over to rachelkingattorney.com to sign up to be the first to get a copy and enter to win a free signed copy as soon as it releases. Arm yourself with the knowledge to move forward confidently through this challenging time. Now let's get back to the show. All right, so guardianship. So then we've got my favorite little girl, right? Absolute doll, love her to pieces. And she is like 6. So she can't inherit all of this money that she's about to. You're thinking, well, why can't mom inherit? Well, mom can't inherit because mom was not married to dad, and dad didn't give a will saying that mom could have everything. So mom just is out of the picture on inheritance. That's, again, another conversation we'll talk about later. But in this case, because of it, you're going to have to take my word for it. Daughter was the rightful heir to all of the assets that dad was leaving behind. But daughter's 6. She can't do anything. She doesn't even have ID. So what happens? Well, you're probably thinking, well, mom could go collect it. And that is true, but mom can't just do it on her own. Why? Because it's not mom's money, and it's not even mom's money to use for the benefit of daughter. It's actually daughter's money from dad that is supposed to be used for her by her. And mom has an obligation as mom to financially support child. So she doesn't really get her hands in any of that. Well, there's a carve out for child support and all of those things, but that's another day. So my favorite little girl needed her mom to be, or somebody to be able to go in and collect all of this money on her behalf and then hold it for her until she was 18 years old in an interest-bearing account, whether that was a blocked account or some other investment strategy. Mom, who was a great mom, was the right person to do that. But again, because it's not her money and it's very controlled on how she did it. We had to go in and get a guardianship of the estate because, like I said, estate in guardianship and conservatorship is for assets. So that's what we did. We petitioned, we had mom get only a guardianship of the estate because she's mom. She can make all of the medical and living decisions that she wants, but we needed power to go in and get this. We were successful, and mom was able to get guardianship of the estate, collect all of those assets, and then hold them in the guardianship for her daughter. But her daughter is 6, and she's like, I don't want to report back to the court all of the time. Is there a way to get rid of this? We also, again, maybe a little bit, maybe it's TMI, but whatever. We were able to say, oh yeah, we don't want to keep the guardianship open from 6 to 18. That's going to be a lot of time in court. So instead, court, can you approve putting the money in a different kind of account? I believe we did an UTMA. I have no idea what that stands for. Don't even ask me. UTMA, I think, is the acronym. And that allowed us to close the guardianship. But mom couldn't touch the money. The money was sitting in an account, earning interest. And guess what? As soon as daughter turns 18, she's coming into a lot of money, not just the original funds, but also all of the interest that has been earned on this. So that is how we were able to really set up my favorite little girl forever. And I hope that while we all have no control over what she does with that money when she turns 18, that she makes a good decision, that she uses it for college or for something productive and doesn't just go piss it away. I knew somebody once who got a very large settlement when they were 18 years old, similar to this scenario. They were able to access it at 18 years old and literally, poof, it was like brand new truck, lottery tickets, all of the things. And I believe they got it at 18. They went through $110,000 by 19. That is nuts. But what can you do? 18-year-olds, right? If I was held to this standard in my decisions and thought process of 18 years old, well, I'd be in a whole lot of trouble. Anyway, those are the 2 times. Where else might we need a guardianship? Maybe of the person, because in my family number 2, mom didn't need it of the person, but maybe mom died. So this poor girl lost, if we'll take my same favorite little girl, and she had a really fantastic mom, so that's fabulous. But what happens if something happens to mom before our favorite little girl turns 18 years old? Gosh, I hope that doesn't happen. Well, then grandma, grandpa, somebody else will have to come in and say, I need the legal authority to decide where favorite little girl lives and register her in school and get her medical care. And the reason that they will need guardianship of the person is because grandma, grandpa, aunt, whoever it is, cousin, they have 0 legal rights to make decisions for our favorite little girl. They're just family members. So they'll have to go in and ask the court for the power to do so. We have gotten guardianships of the person for situations where both parents have passed away. We've gotten guardianships of the person for children where one parent has gone MIA and bounced, and maybe the other parent is on drugs or is unable to care for the child. We've gotten guardianship of the person where both parents were incarcerated or, again, were unable to provide a safe, stable relationship, safe, stable, and healthy environment for this child, and we needed to have somebody else have the power to do so. I just want to say, because it's going to come up, safe, healthy environment, stable environment is a legal standard. It's not what you think is the best, safe, stable environment. I have had quite a few people come in over the years that have said, mom is a train wreck and lives in a trailer, or some variety of these facts. Lives in a trailer, holds down a job part-time, and, is dating somebody new every 3rd Wednesday. That maybe isn't the best way to parent a child. I'm sure a lot of people have different positions on that, but it isn't actually enough typically to go in and to take away parentage or to get guardianship. You being better financially, living in a better neighborhood, making different parenting decisions, even if they're better parenting decisions, isn't enough to take the parenting rights away from mom or dad. So we got to really have a very good reason. And I know all of you fantastic grandparents out there are like, but I would do a better job and mom sucks and mom's my daughter, but I still say she sucks, or dad's a nut job or whatever. I get it. But having a sucky nut job parent doesn't mean that they don't get to parent. They still have parental rights. Anyway, if that's your situation, talk to an attorney. Talk to a specialist, somebody who specializes in probate, and they will be able to explain the nuances of conservatorships, guardianships, conservatorships of the estate, guardianships of the person, all of the things. I'm a board certified specialist in California, and there are so many fantastic attorneys. And if you're not in California, go find a really fantastic attorney in your jurisdiction so they can break it down for you. Because like I said, every jurisdiction is a little bit different. And so here's a fun thing. In Arizona, guardianship of the person, whether an adult or a child, is called guardianship of the person. And then when you have somebody who is over 18 and you want to take care of their estate, it's called conservatorship of the estate. Makes no sense to me, but who am I? I just do what the law tells me to and try and morph the facts in a way that's going to get my client as close to what they want as possible, given the law as it is written today. The key thing to consider when you're looking at conservatorship or guardianship is truly the age. I think the age is really important. And then what it is you're trying to do. Are you trying to take care of financials and assets, or are you trying to manage healthcare and where the person lives? That is really one of the biggest deciding factors and can help you as you navigate the path. If you think that you need a conservatorship or a guardianship, I definitely think that you should reach out to your local courthouse, see if they have any self-help clinics or ways that you can get free help. If not, or if that's not your jam, don't worry. You people keep me in business, so I appreciate it. Conservatorships and guardianships are a fantastic tool and can really save a life, but they can be expensive. They also are incredibly technical. It's probably one of the most technical areas of law. You really have to dot all your I's and cross all of your T's, and some of it can seem so bizarre and unnecessary. The reason that it's necessary and we make people jump through these hoops is to avoid situations maybe like Britney Spears, who was forced to work for 13 years and could put on major concerts and choreograph and make tons of money, but wasn't able to even decide whether she should buy a pair of shoes or not. We're trying to really, really have the focus on protecting the assets of the person that they belong to and making sure that that same person is getting the care and the treatment and everything they need that's in their best interest, and not to self-serve all of the other people involved. So take care, jump through the hoops, and realize there is a reason. And of course, work with an attorney, because we're helpful and we can make the process a whole lot easier. My goal with every single one of my clients is to take the stress out of their legal situation so that they can sleep at night. I tell all of my clients, hey, if you wake up in the middle of the night and you can't sleep because you are stressed about a question or something going on in your legal case, shoot me a text message. You don't have to worry about waking me up. I'm not going to, but you'll know that the question is out there. You'll get it off your chest. We'll see it in the morning on the next workday, and we'll be able to handle it. My goal is to take your stress out of your conservatorship, guardianship, and making all of these decisions, all while trying to navigate the court system and take care of this fantastic favorite little girl or mom and dad. I'd love to hear your stories. I love war stories. I love hero stories. Tell me about how you were able to circumvent the conservatorship or guardianship, maybe by doing some advanced planning like powers of attorney, or how you were able to save somebody's life and get the care. I also love war stories. So if you have a really bad experience, I think they're fantastic. I love to know where the law and the legal system is falling short so that I can avoid it or help in the future if I cross that same path. Anyway, until next time. That wraps up another episode of Gavels Down, Voices Up. If you found value in our discussion today, please subscribe, leave a review, and share with someone who needs these insights. Your engagement helps us grow and impact more lives. I'm Rachel King, thanking you for listening and reminding you to speak up, because every voice deserves to be heard.